This is video 11 of the Blender course, and this is on modifiers and add-ons. Let's take the add-ons first. Add-ons are things that are useful for some people at some point and not useful for everybody at all the time. So they are not included as in the interface all the time. You can turn them on and off by your own needs. So when you go to Edit and you click on Preferences, you can find Add-ons, and in here you have a list of all the possible add-ons that you have for Blender. Now, some of these are very useful, some of them are very specific, but I seem to be having some of them on all the time. For example, in the mesh selections, I can have the 3D print toolbox, yes, an auto mirror, which means that I can do changes across the x-axis and all the changes are mirrored on the other side. There's also edit mesh tools, which I find good, and then there's loop tools. I'll take it off now and I'll show you what the effect of this is later on. There are other like material things, material libraries, there are node related stuff. Some people say that the node wrangler is a good thing, but I've never used it because I don't have a need for that. But there's all kinds of things, and you may just want to come over here and see if you need something that you want to see turned on at all times. So yeah, it may be a good thing. You can also install things that you find on the web by downloading a zip file, and it goes into the downloads folder, and in here you would see the zip file, and if it is a correctly built add-on package, all you need to do is to click install add-on and it will appear here in the list, and then you can just turn it on as such. So just to show you one of the add-ons, I will go back to my Blender. And if I go into Blender and I add a loop cut like so, and then I select this other set of all of this loop, these 8 vertices, and I will separate these by the parts by saying P separate by selection. And now I can take this cube and move it on the y-axis, for example, like so. Now, if I want to join these two together again, I can, of course, I can just select them both and with the Ctrl J key join them together as cube 1001, and then add faces between the edges like so. But this takes time, and this is rather, it's easy to miss vertices, especially if you have a more complex object. So instead of doing that, I will go and turn on my mesh loop tools here. Now, if I don't have it, if I don't have the loop tools and I am inside edit mode and I right click, I have these on the top of the list here, edit edge tools and mesh tools, which are nice, of course, but what I need is edit preferences, turn on loop tools, and now when I go into edit mode and I select these two sets of vertices and I right click here, on the top of my list I have a thing called bridge, and with the bridge tool I can even twist the joints, the faces that are applied between the two sets of vertices. So I have one object once more, and that's why this is very, very nice for working with meshes. Also, if I go to Shift A and I say add objects, I have things that are not available unless I have turned on extra objects, which I can find here, edit preferences, and there are some objects, there are some extra objects in here. For example, the cell fracture here, which is very nice, and all kinds of things that you can have as your new types of objects that you want to add to your meshes. So I have bolt factory here, and I have extra objects turned on. And if I wanted to add a bolt in here, I could first of all place the cursor in there and say mesh bolt. And from the bolt factory, I can pick like an M4 bolt. It would be that big, and I can adjust the bolt any way I like before actually settling on what I want to have. So this is yet another add-on that you can get from the add-ons. You should have the import-export. You should have import AutoCAD format, because many times you run into that. And you also have somewhere here, you have a thing called import images as planes, which is very useful. But yeah, here it is, import export, import images as planes. This is very useful, because this way, when you import an image, it is brought in as an object and not as a texture. So that's why you should always have that on. And if you want to print, you need the STL format output, and the import export OBJ is of course very useful. So there's a set of official things, there's a set of community things that are built by people, and then there's a bunch of stuff that is being built by somebody, but it's in the testing. So if you want to be really experimental, you can do that. And when you have selected all the stuff that you want to have, you can just click save, and it will be saved for you. Oh, sorry, this is not when you turn it on, it gets turned on, but then when you save the default file, then it will save also whatever preferences you have set here. So I'll take a new file, because I want to show you how to use the modifiers. Modifiers are here behind the wrench key, and there's a long list of different modifiers here. The main ones that you may want to use are the array, and the Bable, and the Boolean. You also may want to use mirroring sometimes. Sometimes you want to use Solidify, and Subdivision Surface is actually very important. Now, one thing I want to say, also the simulation ones are here. If you want to make a cloth, or if you want to make a collision object, all of those are modifiers, and they are added from here. Sorry. But just to get started, I'll show you how to use the array modifier. When you click on that, it makes a copy of whatever you have selected, and you can set the offset here. And if you want to make 5 of these or 6 of these, all you have to do is to turn on the count, or turn up the count. Now you can also have a relative offset in another direction. Like if you wanted to make a set of stairs, it might be a good idea to do it like so. And you can do that in all 3 directions if you want. Now the thing is that when you don't hit apply, this actually pertains to all of the modifiers. If you do not hit apply, you can still edit all of the stuff. But as soon as you hit apply, you are left with a single object that is created by the array modifier. So I'll go back a little. I'll lose this array. And I want to have 5 of these one way. So I do y to 5, like so. And then I want to have 5 of these going in the other direction. So I will go add modifier array, not in that direction, but in this direction. And I want to have 5 of these. And then I want to have yet one more. Sorry about that again. Array. And this time I go here, and instead of 0 here, I will say 1.1 in here. and 5 copies of that. So you see the order of stuff that you have here in your modifier stack is actually important. I have 3 array modifiers now, and the one that is on the bottom here is the one that governs how tall the building is. What you can also do, you can make like put these up and down in here. I'll move it up, and now this one here governs the height of the count. Again, if I don't hit apply, I can go back to the original situation merely by deleting the modifiers. So I would say that do not apply your modifiers unless you absolutely have to. So that was the array. Then there's bevel. Bevel is good for doing rounded corners. See, your object is still like this. This is the object, but it appears to have a bevel. And when you do apply this, you get the bevel set up as it is in the object. You can have it going inside also, or coming out like so. I'll just leave it like that. All of these are available for you, but you need to learn how to use these on your own. I have no idea what these things do. So that was bevel, and if I apply, my object looks like this. If I do not apply, then my object can still be edited. I can add more segments, and when I apply, I have lots of these segments here. So that was Boolean. Let me go back and delete this and be left with a single basic cube. I will then show you Boolean. So Booleans are very important because with those you can add stuff and you can join stuff and you can have the difference of 2 objects. So if I have the cube and I have this nice ball here, and now I want to deduct the volume of this sphere from this cube, I will insert it into my cube like so, and I'll scale the cube up a little. So like so. Before you can use Booleans, you must use apply on all 3 dimensions of all of your objects. So click here, Control A, all transforms. Click here, Control A, all transforms. Now, with the cube selected, go to Add Modifier, Boolean, difference, object being the sphere, and this time you have to apply. So when you now delete the ball, you have this, an indentation there of your object that you used to have in there. In the other 2 are union and difference. Sorry, intersect and union. So union means basically the same that you get when you have 2 objects and you hit Ctrl J to join them. That's no different there. But intersection is what is left from these 2, whatever 2 objects you have. So if I'll add another, let's say I will add a cylinder, and I will pull it up and grab it to the X direction. If I do a union of these 2, first I have to apply the transforms, apply the transforms. If I do a union of these 2 objects, intersection of these 2 objects, I am left with whatever is common to them both. So that would be that part in there. I have to say that I haven't used intersect that much, but difference is something that I use every day, especially in 3D printing, because if you want to have, let's say that you want to have a hole in here, you can select this one face, snap the cursor to it, add a cylinder, scale the cylinder down, rotate it on the X for 90 degrees, scale it out on the Y direction, Control A, all transforms, Control A, all transforms, and then with a nice Boolean difference operation, get a hole in your object. And this will actually print very nicely because it has a hole and it is watertight. So Boolean is a very, very useful thing. Solidify means that you have a cube. Let's say that you want to lose the top face, and then you are left with the cube, and you add a solidify to it. With the thickness, you can set the thickness of the object. And when you do the apply for this, and you go into the wireframe mode, you can see how it gave you this thickness here. Again, before doing this, before doing solidify, remember to apply all transformations before doing this, because otherwise you will wind up with a different thickness of the wall in different parts of the mesh, and that's something you do not want to have. So that was solidify. Then there is subdivision surface, and this is also very useful because when you are doing when you have a cube and you want to split it up into smaller cubes or smaller parts on the faces, you can add a subdivision surface modifier, and this will add surfaces to your mesh, but it will also round it up like this. Some people actually, when they start doing a human head, they start with a cube, they give it a subdivision surface of 2, and then they split it down this line here, and then they use a mirror modifier to do the other half. So yes, this is subdivision surface is covered in the PowerPoints pretty well, and it's a very powerful tool. And sometimes you definitely want to have it. And this is what you're left up with when you are done with your subdivision surface. There's also a couple of others that I sometimes have used. One of them is Wireframe. I'll just kill that. If I go and I have a Wireframe modifier for this, I can set the thickness of the object like so. When I apply that, I'm no longer having a cube. I have a system that connects all the vertices that I had that have been then given more vertices to make it look like this. So that is sometimes useful. And the last one I wanted to show you is let's say that I take a plane and I lose that corner there with a vertex thingy. I'll just move this. So go to my top view and grab the vertex and put it like there. And then if I add the screw modifier to this and I add some screw level to it, you can actually make a nice screw with the angle, how many times it turns, how many steps you have in it, and how many iterations you go through. So this is, again, this is sometimes, so this is a thing that you might use once or twice, but it's nice to know where it is if you actually need it. And if I don't apply this, I can edit it, but if I hit apply, I am left with all of these vertices here. One thing that is good for this is actually that if I go in here and I add a circle and I add the screw modifier to the circle, like so, and I go into edit mode. Sorry, I added the wrong type of object. I needed to add a mesh circle, and to that the screw, like so. And then I can add how many iterations I want to have, and how many angles I want to have, and the number of steps. So when I now apply, I have all of these nice vertices here. Again, remotely useful, but not the top of the list that you want to use it. I would say that the most wanted things, most time you will be using array, Bable, Boolean, mirror, Solidify, Subdivision Surface.